And do we just need 4? Is that how many we have this evening, Rebecca, or are we expecting 5, 6?
We're also expecting Will, but I
Will,
think
okay.
we can get started with 4. Oh, Sam is joining now.
Oh, Sam's joining. Okay, great. All right, well, move Sam up to the group.
Full boat tonight.
Yeah, great. Well, I think we have a quorum, so we'll get started because we've got a lot on our agenda. Are there any potential or proposed modifications to the agenda for this evening? Everyone should have it.
Not that I know of. It should be. Let's just see.
Okay, and then first item is a review of the draft meeting minutes from 6/24. Someone has an echo. Okay, I think it's addressed. All right, so the draft meeting minutes from 6/24.
I thought they looked good. No amendments.
Is that a motion?
Well, it could be a motion to approve the minutes from June 24th.
Unless anyone else has comments or questions. There's a second, and we'll do a roll call vote. Sam?
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, and Will?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Roberta?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. So the meeting minutes are approved. And the next item on our agenda is the continuation of public hearing for 29 Sears Road, DEP file 120-0200 and the Brookline Wetland Bylaw 2303. This is regarding an amended order of conditions on the previous NOI. Yeah, why is that an amended OOC?
So
Alex, remind me.
Yeah, it was an order of conditions that was issued in the fall of 2023. So they are requesting an amendment to that order of conditions.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, yeah, great, good. Thanks for refreshing the procedural component. All right, it looks like the applicants are here. Mr. Gentile, yep.
Yes, good evening. Attorney Don Gentile on behalf of the applicant. As the chair just explained, we are before you to request an amendment to an order of conditions for a single family home. The order of conditions was issued back in 2023. And as I explained at the last hearing on June 24th, we are proposing a less impactful project to the wetlands buffer. So we're looking to have less impact, which is a good thing. At the conclusion of our last hearing on June 24th, the commission asked us some questions and also asked us for some additional materials. Just to refresh your memory, the commission had asked for a combined landscape plan that would include the features of the final landscape plan from 2023, along with the wetlands buffer enhancement work that is being proposed as part of this project, and the latest tree information related to tree preservation. And we provided that combined landscape plan. Second, you had some questions about the conservation restriction that the applicant is offering in connection with this project. You asked for an updated conservation restriction plan showing more clearly the conservation restriction that we are proposing. We provided that. We can go into more detail, but I'm here to confirm that the applicant is offering the same conservation restriction that was offered the last time around, that would extend all the way down to where the properties meet Dale Street. So it's the same area, it's the same restriction plan. Third, you asked for a copy of the subdivision plan that was filed with the land court that subdivided some of these parcels so you could understand where the lot lines changed. We also provided that. You also had some questions about any updated stormwater management, and we provided updated calculations and I believe an updated plan that showed those features with more specificity. And with me tonight is Vern Porter, who is our land surveyor and engineer on the project. Vern can explain those details on the stormwater and answer any questions you may have. Also with me tonight is Paul McManus from Ecotech. He's our wetlands consultant, and he can certainly answer any questions that you have about the plans or the amended proposal. Also with me tonight is Mr. Mark Cirillo. Mark is the landscape architect on the project, and he can provide you with more information about the landscaping plan, trees, etc. And specifically, Mark proposes to make a brief presentation to you tonight to hopefully sort of pull everything together and answer some of the questions that you brought up at the last hearing. So if it's agreeable with the chair, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Cirillo to provide his brief presentation.
Yeah, yes, that'd be great.
Great. And I
Thanks,
will
thanks.
share my screen. I have some chalks that I think Mr. Cirillo would like to refer to.
Great.
Yeah, could I share my screen? Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, I'm
Bob?
sorry, Mark. I thought you wanted me to do it. Sure, you can share your screen instead.
Yeah, thanks. That's just so I could flip back and forth more easily. I'm attempting to do it right now. Sorry. Everything looks different when you share your screen. Okay, could everyone see that plan?
No.
Uh,
Oh,
Yeah.
here it is. Coming.
Taking a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
We see Photoshop, but nothing in the window.
Nothing in them.
It's just like a gray Photoshop window. Is that what everybody else sees too?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. It says I'm sharing my screen.
You're probably sharing a specific application as opposed to the monitor.
Okay. Well, it's not working. So Don, maybe you should do it. I'm sorry. I'll stop sharing this. Seems like you had it up.
Here it is. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can-
Is it possible to go to full screen view on that so we have the whole drawing?
I'm not sure I know how to do that, Mark.
Okay, well then let's just go. I'm sorry for taking up so much time. This was the original plan, marketing plan that divided the property up into 5 lots initially. The lot that's in question tonight is up here, if you can see, in the upper left-hand corner. Scroll down a little bit, Don.
Yep.
Okay, the upper left-hand corner here. When they put this together, instead of doing a cluster development, they did a fee simple development where each lot had frontage on Sears Road. So if you look at Sears Road, which is on the right-hand side, on the lower right-hand side of the screen, you can see the frontage for those lots. They also created an HOA for the 5 lots, which created access, and you can see that there's a blue line that shows an outline of not only where the roadway goes, but it also outlines where the drainage and utilities would be and how they would serve these 5 lots. And so at the top of the screen, there's a blue rectangle that you can see there, which was designated as the detention area for and retention for the stormwater for the entire property, which includes everything from the roadways. The Brookline DPW regulations require that drainage for each site is retained on site, and so we'll show you how that's done on another slide. You could switch the slide, please. Okay, so I'll lift it up a little bit, Don, to the top. Can you? So I can see that. I need to see the bottom of the slide. That's it. Okay. So I changed the orientation because I wanted to be able to show you the entirety of the wetland area on the backside of the property. So this actually flipped 180 degrees. Sears Road is to the upper left of the screen, and our property is outlined by this large rectangle, which is down at the center of the screen and goes down to the bottom. The wetland is outlined by a purple line, and this was a wetland outline that was created for the A&R of the original development. This was not what Ecotech has done, because they have done another more recent wetland delineation based on the new survey. So this is the property. This was originally called Lot 17. You could change the. So originally on Lot 17, the proposal that was presented in 2023. If you notice, Lot 17 has 111,000 square feet, some odd square feet of area, which is an incredible amount, which allows for an incredible amount of FAR. So the original plan was to build a house that had a swimming pool and a sports court associated with it, and essentially do that in a way that would satisfy the family that was living already at 21 Sears Road and thought they needed a larger house. Next slide, please. So during the discussion of this larger house and exactly what this larger house would wind up looking like and being, the question arose, well, what can we do to add on to 21 Sears Road, which is the property to the immediate left of this site? And and basically the answer was, well, there's not enough FAR left on for number 21 Sears Road. So what we did was borrow some FAR from Lot 17, which is what you see in front of you here, and reduced the house and the size of the development there to just include a house which was smaller than the original, but without a sports court and without a pool. The red lines on the property indicate the proposed subdivision and what it would provide for number 21. So for example, the piece across the top, rectangular piece across the top, is a connector from the back portion of the property to number 21. And the red line on the left-hand side of the screen, which deviates into the property, is a line that was set by the setback requirements for an addition that might sometime occur for Lot 21. So the subdivision essentially set up the way in which Lot 21 could be expanded with an addition. Next slide, please. So this is the subdivision that was filed with Land Court, and it's kind of confusing, but the reality is that the new parcels were required to become lots by Land Court before they were connected to the additional property of 21 Sears Road. So each lot then was renamed, which is why there's some confusion when people refer to the lots by number or by address. But the lot in the front, where you see the house outline, that's 21 Sears Road. And the lot right behind it is 29 Sears Road, and that's the property that we're talking about this evening on right in the center of the screen. Next slide, please. So originally, when we applied for updating the notice of intent, the this landscape plan was prepared by myself because when we did that, the tree protection bylaw had not been passed yet, and it had not been approved by anybody. So this is the plan that was originally submitted to the Conservation Commission yourselves. In the case of using the prior organization and rules and subdivision requirements as defined in the DPW section 8. We go to the next slide, please. So when we had to start to look at this with regard, so pardon? When we started to look at this with regard to the new tree protection plan, we realized that we had two issues occurring. And I read the bylaw very carefully a number of times, and even though the tree protection bylaw is in place, the Conservation Commission has purview over the buffer and things that would happen in the buffer. And I think that what we've understood from Alex is that you would like to deal with the trees and the plantings in the buffer in the same way that the tree protection, the new tree protection rules apply. So this plan is a civil drawing that shows what we call the tree save area in the green circles, and it outlines some trees that are in actually they're evergreen trees in blue at the lower left-hand side, not all the way, but sort of in the center. And these trees were planted by the homeowner, and he would like to replant those or move them to the property line for buffering. So the trees that you see with the red dots are the trees that would be removed from the site in order to build the house. And you can see that there's the 100-foot buffer delineated, the 150-foot buffer delineated. And when we get to it, there's also a limit of conservation restriction line shown also. So lot 22 is in fact the new lot 17, which has this information on it and is organized for setback requirements, and here for the trees that would have to be removed. And there are 52 trees defined outside the 100-foot buffer, and of the 52 trees, there's 31 which would be removed, which are indicated by these red dots. Could you go to the next plan, please? So what you see here is the existing tree list. This is what you submit when you apply for a tree protection permit, essentially indicating all the trees by number and also the species, the diameter at breast height, the condition. And all this information was prepared by an arborist, Steve Gold, who is with Boston Tree Service. There are various instructions that are allowed for invasive plants, as you know, and also for trees that are considered to be unviable. Very interesting word, unviable. It's more or less a, you know, legal term, but essentially what it says is this tree doesn't have the shape, doesn't have the structure, doesn't have the branching to reach its full capacity. And those trees that are in that those areas, could you go back to the previous slide for a minute? Those trees that are in these areas that are indicated by red, there's only probably maybe one or two of them that actually have a shape, because when they're grown together in forest condition, you basically have a telephone pole with sort of a fringe on top, which provides for the canopy. So the idea, okay, we could go to the next slide and the next slide. So the idea in the planting plan here is to provide a structural planting for tree replacement and mitigation, which involves approximately 207 caliper inches of tree replacement, indicated by an analysis of that table that we just looked at. So what you have here are trees that will not only screen but also enhance the development and also the buffer area, because the dark green area that you see here indicated across the back of the house in front of the 100-foot buffer was what we had proposed originally, and that was a chain link, not chain link, a
Split rail.
thank you, a split rail fence that went essentially across from the house or the structure to the edge of the property, and the edge of the property would contain people moving into the buffer area, and the buffer area would not be planted with lawn. It would be planted with a New England wildlife mix, and that's designated in the plant list. So this is a redo of what we had originally proposed, but it's a little bit more finely tuned because the trees and planting actually mitigate what we're taking out. Next slide, please. So one of the things that you wanted to see was a combination landscape plan. And it's a little hard to see because it's so small, but let me describe it a little bit. On the left-hand side is what we just talked about as the planting that would be around the new structure of the house up to the 100-foot buffer. Within the 100-foot buffer is a planting that has been designated by Ecotech, which is an enhancement of the 100-foot buffer, or the enhancement of all the area outside of the wetland edge. So that blue line, faint blue line that you see, is in fact the wetland edge defined by Ecotech. And what you see in the light color, if you can discern a light color with sort of a dot in the middle, those are the existing trees that are in the buffer, which we will be retaining. And Ecotech has suggested that we plant 35 more saplings of about 4 to 4.5 feet high. And that's represented by the darker circles. And in addition to this 35-foot saplings, there would be 150 shrubs, and that breaks down to approximately 6 to 8 shrubs per area where the trees would be planted, and the trees would be planted between 12 to 15 feet away from existing trees to enhance everything. Now, in addition to this, Ecotech has suggested cleaning up the ground plane, getting out the invasives, and there's a whole report that you could look at that designates what should be done in that area. But Don, if you would, for just a moment, take your cursor and outline the property line across the top and then down the middle for them. Yeah, so the property line now goes all the way down to, keep going if you can.
This is a little tricky, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Well, you're doing better than me. I couldn't get it to work.
Right there.
Yeah, and then you got some sort of table showing there on the corner. Can you get rid of that?
That's me drawing.
Oh, that's you drawing?
You
Okay,
are
well,
testing my computer skills.
okay, what I really want to show is the end line. Yeah, yeah, there you go. That the end line right down there. Okay. So these 35 trees are confined in the uh lot 23, which is the old lot 17, described by Don. But as Don had mentioned previously, we had suggested that the conservation restriction area would be the whole backside of this lot. And since the client owns both lots, he is certainly would like to go ahead with having the whole area, which was originally a whole piece, put in the conservation restriction, and that would include the lower portion, which is the new lot 23, and then the other lot as well, which is connected to number 21. Don, could you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. Okay. So then you can get, there you go. Okay. So this is the new plan that Vern put together that shows the conservation restriction line and also shows the designation and the area of lot 75,000 square feet, which includes all of the backside of that property in the conservation restriction area. Oh, wait a minute. There's a box there. If you can read it, it says lot 22 is 35,944 and lot 23 is 28,288 for a total of 64,232 square feet, which would encompass all of the backside of that property. Great. Okay, next slide, please. So this is well, you can make it a little bit bigger. This is a little larger area to show you the difference in the colors, the distribution of the trees, the organization of what the edge of the wetland looks like, and also what is going on the site. Could you roll that up so we see the bottom of that plan? That's yeah.
Yes.
Okay, right. So we've had a lot of comments by abutters, and one of the things we could address is that 360 and 370 Lee Street they're really concerned about drainage, and rightly so, because their properties are in the 100-foot buffer. Mostly all their property is in the 100-foot buffer. So their property drains out onto our property, which is not supposed to happen, and it goes out that swale on the right side, and I'll show you the continuation of that, but that swale goes out to Dale Street and continues on and basically goes into, I think, the pond over there at Lars Anderson, as a intermediate area. So that area there will remain the same, and I think that the abutters are concerned about it remaining the same, so that their drainage can happen the way it does right now, and that it will not be interrupted. Because as I mentioned before, all the drainage for the construction of the new house is taken care of on site, and there is a HOA configuration of drainage and utilities that takes care of all the water from the streets and everything else. So there's no water from our site that goes on their property, but there's plenty of water from their property that goes onto our property and goes out to the right-hand side. Let's look at the next slide, please. Okay, so there was really concern about that back parcel and why this was done and how it was done and so forth. And as I mentioned before, the real reason was to add square footage to number 21 number 21. So you can see here that there's a swale that continues down in the long right out to Dale Street, which is on the right-hand side. And also there's a drain easement by the town. It's both for sanitary sewer and stormwater sewer. So the fact is that there's really no way that you could develop this back parcel because of the easement, because of the drains in place, and because of the fact that the town wants to maintain that open drainage from the abutters at 360 and 370 into that swale and out, so that they don't have to put an interceptor in there to deal with that. So essentially, this is undevelopable, and I hope that you can realize by looking at it that that's the case. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the total package. And we've already sort of touched on drainage a little bit, but if we go back to the original site for number 29, you can see that in the driveway, under the driveway, are the drainage galleys for the property, which have been organized by a civil engineer for all the drainage that comes off the roof, all the drainage that comes off the paved area in front, and essentially goes into those galleys. And then if you look down at the bottom of the screen on the left-hand side, you can see a drainage basin. That drainage basin is the retention area that was originally organized. And I believe that when you folks approved, I think it was number 25 for construction, one of the conditions was to clean out the drainage on this site, all the catch basins, all of the swales, make sure that the drainage worked, and so forth. And that was done, I think, 2 years ago. Vern can attest to when that was done. Next slide, please. So this is a quick diagram of the existing detention basin that takes a 12-inch pipe from the water, the roadways and the driveways that come in to the detention basin. And this has been in place for, I guess, over 12 years, 10 or 12 years, and has been cleaned out recently and is still working. If you could just go down to the bottom of that drawing. Oh, no, you don't have it in yours. Okay, just go to the next slide, please. Okay, so I think that I think we covered everything that you were looking for, at least initially. Number one, why the subdivision occurred, how the subdivision occurred, what the subdivision was for, and how it affects the property that is up for approval now. We looked at the rear part of the lot, to understand why that can't be developed and what the real reasons were, and which was to just add FAR capacity to 21 Sears Road. We looked at the planting and the mitigation that not only occurs on site and in the 150-foot buffer, but also in the 100-foot buffer, and for the most part across the entire property, which would be in conservation restriction. And then lastly, looked at the drainage to ensure that we are basically containing our drainage and organizing our own work there. So that's about it, and I hope that the context gave you a little more insight as to what type of work has been going on and how it can be fruitful in the future for everything, including the wetland. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mark.
And Mr. Gentiles, or is there anyone else? I think that was a pretty clear explanation of.
I do too. I think it was very comprehensive. We also have Mr. Porter here, the land surveyor and engineer. We have the wetland scientist. So perhaps in the interest of time, I'd let the commission direct the conversation at this time.
Right, yeah, that sounds good. Any questions from the commission? Comments?
Pam's got her hand.
Roberta?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Roberta and
Oh,
Pam. Yep.
Pam's got her hand up first. I just
All
can't.
right,
find
go
it.
ahead, Pam.
Go ahead.
All right.
Possibly it's the same one. I wondered if you could just go back through the slides, it may be a dozen slides back, and just to be sure I'm clear in my own mind, where it went from the project that was approved in 2023, and then the new work going forward. Was the swimming pool, and was that part of the 2023?
Yes, it was. Yes.
It was, okay. So you took off. So why don't you go back? So this is, yes, okay. So this is it. So this is the one. Why don't you flip back one more? I think you're going forward.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this the one you were looking
Yes,
for?
yes.
Okay.
So this is the 2023 one where it shows the swimming pool and everything.
Yes, and it was all undercover, correct? It was all
Yeah,
structured.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So for purpose of amendment, it's just important to know what it is we're amending. So this was the project plan in the original order of conditions, showing that the additional swimming pool area, the bump out there, and so that
Right.
and okay, and then move down one to the one we're looking at now, where the house was reconfigured.
Right, and you can also see the the New England wildlife mix zone indicated by a hatch in the darker green area, and the fence and so forth. So that's repeated in the new plan.
Yeah, okay. So why don't you just go forward one and we can look at the next, yeah, so you can see here, it does knock off quite a bit of the footprint of the building. Okay, Roberta, what were you gonna
Yeah,
ask?
Roberta, you're next.
Um, I think you're right to acknowledge that this is somewhat of a confusing, and for us, this will be the first time we're looking at a situation that involves the tree protection bylaw and part of the buffer zone. And I guess I would just note at the outset that, we are interested in the input from that process, but we do have our own standards that we're required to meet. And I'm curious, first of all, as to whether or not that you've been through the permit process for the tree protection bylaw.
I have, yes.
And so has this plan been through it? Has this been?
No. This particular plan, the application has been made, and we're perfecting it as we speak. It's under review. I've received comments back. Comments were, at least up until now, were not substantial in the sense that we need to change anything. One of the things that we found is that there's sort of a glitch in the actual application process, because like once you submit the information, you can't update it. So you have to put additional information in and kind of indicate that it's been revised. And I think that's going to work its way out soon. And I think that in the beginning I didn't think it would work, because the balance I thought would have been like off. But when you get the arborist involved and you figure out like what trees are dead and what trees are unviable and that sort of thing, and then you subtract that, and then finally you come up with a number. I think that it is viable, because when we do a landscape plan, at least the landscape plans I've been doing, you're putting in, if it's a completely blank site originally, I'm putting in anywhere from 40 to 50 trees. and that includes arborvitae, because that's listed as a native, and it's also listed as a tree for screening, Leland cypress for screening. I didn't want to confuse the issue by showing pictures of trees, because what happens is that, you know, you start looking at a tree and you think you're going to get a tree, you know, the way you see it in Donald Wyman's, you know, book on trees of the Northeast. And it just doesn't happen that way in a forest, you know, because the trees grow together, and they wind up being like telephone poles with fringe on top. So what you really need to do is to try and keep, you know, what you can that are viable, and then use, you know, the mitigation process to you know, to come up with a good planting plan. And you know, not everybody would put in a good planting plan, so this kind of makes everybody live up to, you know, what they need to do in terms of landscape.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting challenge here. And, you know, and I appreciate your presentation. I think this has been helpful in terms of clarifying, you know, why we are where we are, and what you're proposing. I would just say that, you know, our mandate is, to the maximum extent possible, preserve the buffer zone in its naturally vegetated condition, which is somewhat different, a different concept than, you know, remove all the undeveloped land, even if it is telephone poles with the fringe on top. That's how forests develop sometimes.
Well,
But it's an ecosystem, and replace it with specimen, you know, species. So I think that's part of what I'm wondering
Yeah.
about here.
Yeah, we didn't do that here. Of the 52 trees that were being removed, only 31 of them actually had to be mitigated, because, you know, there were 20 some trees that were dead because they happened to be in the swale that comes out of the, you know, retention area that goes into the wetland, you know, so they just didn't make it. You know, and there are, you know, if you took a walk on a wild side over there in front in the wetland, I think you'd see that that we've kept every viable tree that we possibly can.
I wonder if we could just look again at the planting plan, maybe the last one you had up, because I'm a little bit confused as to how it will really happen in real life.
Which one?
Any of those final plans as to what you're
Mm.
proposing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious about the same thing, and like even some of the comments you just made, Mark, about like, so for us, a wetland habitat often has dead or fallen trees, and like this is part of the entire ecosystem. So we look at that very differently, and actually the evolution of these ecosystems are very, you know, positive, and kind of the natural processes we're trying to preserve. But so I'm a little.
Can we
A
go
little
back to
alarmed
this?
about what you just said about like removing things, particularly if
back to
they're
this-
in the buffer that look like that. But
Go back to the slide
Yeah.
before this, please. Can you go back to the slide before?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. Keep going. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe it was forward. I'm sorry. It's the one with the red dots on it. Yeah, that one. That one. Okay. So the trees that are down at the bottom, all along the edge there, those are actually, most of them are small caliper trees. The ones that are out in the open, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees at the very bottom. Those are actually dead because there's too much water in that area. So what we're doing is, you know, we're taking out 3 trees along the edge of the buffer, because those trees just are not in good shape. They're really unviable. And then we are planting 9 trees that are natives along the edge of that buffer. So, you know, plus the saplings that are going inside, much better condition eventually than it is right now. you know, there's really just one tree that actually is a tree that you would consider to have shape to it, and that's the tree at the very top, which is actually on the adjacent property, so it's not even on our property.
It's so hard. There's so much going on in here, but you know, so I hear you say that the three right on the 100-foot buffer zone line are dead. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that they're unviable. Yes,
Unviable.
right.
Unviable. And there are three in a cluster plus three below them that are also proposed in the open outside of the footprint of the house that are proposed for removal. So
Yeah, they're
the
dead.
six trees, they're
Yeah,
dead.
they're dead. Yeah.
So thanks for clarifying that. So just generally, if you could go forward so that we can see the landscape that you're proposing just on that map, because
Sorry, is it up one
Yep.
slide?
Yeah, it's up,
uh,
up,
let's see.
up.
Yikes.
You got to go up. I'm sorry, you got to go down in order to see it.
Yeah, I think that final landscape, the comprehensive landscape plan is what we're looking for.
Okay, but go
Yeah,
back
exactly.
to that chart for just a second, if you would. I mean, if you look at this chart, this is the chart that was prepared by the arborist. And you can see that the condition of those trees are all poor. All the trees that are off-site, which are the first 9 trees that are on the right-hand side, you can see off-site, last column. Those trees are remaining. And then a little further down, there's a number of trees that are in the buffer. And if you look over, they're all remaining. Okay, so we are keeping all the trees we possibly can keep that are not invasive or unviable. And except for those trees that we need to take down because you need to do that in order to build a house.
I see there are lots of questions. I just want to, if I could, focus on the landscape map, the complete map, and maybe
Okay.
other people will have questions there too, if we could get that up in front of us.
Yeah,
Sure, so this is the final landscape plan.
Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. So I just want to understand, because I know you have changed the shape of the house, and I see it looks like 2 staircases. I'm looking at the, you know, the area within the 100 to 150-foot buffer zone that is outside the house now and to the west. So at the bottom of that. And I see 2 staircases going out, and I see that it's going to be planted with New England wildflower mix. And I'm wondering, really? And on a little bit further up, that's the case as well, that people, you know, then you've got trees, and then we've got a gap between the 100-foot buffer and the conservation restriction line. And my concern is, I don't know what's going to happen, you know, in that area between the 100-foot buffer zone and the conservation restriction. And I wonder about how this really is going to function in real life, whether that isn't just going to get mowed and all become lawn. It's curious the way it's set up to me. It doesn't look like it is making an effort to really,
Well, it was suggested by
accommodate
the
the-
previous,
Pardon me?
it was suggested by the previous conservation commissioner to set it up this way. And so that's why we did it originally. And one of the things you'd have to think about is that the house is designed so that you come in at the first floor level, but the basement level is, you come out at the basement level. And it was designed that way so that we could meet grade along the backside of the house. So the house is designed so that we do not disturb any of the edge of the 100-foot buffer. And the staircases are there so that you can get around the property without having to go into the the buffer, and it can be contained. So it's design criteria to try and help to do just exactly what you'd like to see, which is to keep things and people out of the buffer area. And
And if I could just add something, so back in 2023, I worked closely with Tom Brady on this setup for this area. So it was done with his input, and it was ultimately approved by the commission. And I just like to remind the commission that we are seeking to amend the existing order,
Right.
and the new proposal does have less of an effect on the buffer. And we have and I
And
just wanted to.
the area inside the 100-foot buffer is undisturbed other than this kind of change to planting? Like during construction is the limits, right? That's the limits of disturbance?
oh no, it's even further back.
It's for,
Yeah, there was a the tree save areas and the erosion control line is further back.
is further back than the 100-foot buffer?
Yeah, there's going to be nothing in the 100-foot buffer.
So that the final condition inside the 100-foot buffer is undisturbed with the exception of some enhanced planting? Is that the understanding?
That's
I know
correct.
you mentioned quickly in the description some like cleanup of some sort in that area. Can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that?
Paul, you want to talk
What is that
about
about? Yeah. I know there's a lot of hands up too, so I don't want
Yeah,
to
Paul,
get ahead of my
Can you
commissioner if you go too far.
mute yourself? You're muted.
I'm having some computer troubles. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep,
We can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that. So yeah, initially with the 2023 approval, we had prepared and submitted and was included in the order an invasives management plan that proposed a whole bunch of planting that Mark described. That's not specifically enumerated on here. It's basically too many points on the plan. So we proposed to go in and manage the understory invasives, which are very prevalent. And there was a comment last time about not taking down trees. The trees that we're talking about not taking down explicitly there are a number of Norway maples throughout this back area. So our intent is to go into manage invasives, but not those Norway maples. So even though they're clearly listed invasive, we're specifically excluding those because we didn't want to propose to go in and cut down trees back there, even though they are invasives. But there is a very substantial invasives management plan that was approved in 2023, and it is still. We're not proposing in any way, shape, or form to remove that from the proposed amendment condition.
Yeah, great. I do want to make sure, because I've got a lot of hands up. I'm going to go just in order as I see it, but Will.
Excuse me, I have just two quick things. I'm also understanding that the further subdivision of the properties happened between 2023 and now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, so that's part of the reorienting of our location. And I also just sort of commend the larger conservation restriction. I think that's, to add in the parcel on lot 23 and make it bigger. That to me is a positive for that larger wetland area. So
Yeah, we heard a lot of concern about that last time, Will. I think it's good pointing out. Like this seems to me, it seems very clear that you're coming back with what we had thought was the case. Pam.
Yeah, I just would make the comment, or I guess partly it's a question about the charts showing trees and the condition of them. And I assume that was sort of drawn up to support the bylaw, which had to do, in large measure about trees and their ability to sequester carbon, right? So, but wetlands are a little different because we may, for habitat and other reasons, we may be, having dead trees can be a good thing as part of wetland habitat. So I just wanted to point that out. That's the thing that the feature that's kind of sticking out to me here about a change between the 23 and now is the additional cutting of trees, based on the factors that were taken into account in the tree bylaw, but they may not necessarily be wetlands, consistent with wetlands values.
Yeah, I think it's right, Pam. Like, this is one of the first times we've had to encounter this, but like an unviable tree is like an integral part of the ecosystem from a buffer and wetland perspective, right? So we don't think of unviable trees as not valuable, but it's really interesting, right? I mean, we're gonna end up with this much more frequently, I think, because it's like the bylaw actually diminishes the value of those things by saying, it's about something completely different than protection. So yeah, very interesting. Werner.
I was going to ask a question, but I think it was pretty much answered. So I'll just sort of turn it into two comments. I mean, the first thing I think has been said here a couple of times is that this was previously approved, and that the basic, the invasives management and a lot of the basic design was already approved. And this is, from our point of view, considerably better because the footprint is smaller. And we're really just sort of talking about, fine details now. So it's fine to do that, but I think we should keep that in mind, that in general, there's been improvement on this site. The design's been getting better and better. The comment that it strikes me that I was going to ask about Norway maples, and it looks like to me like at least a dozen of the trees that are listed there are Norway maples. And so this is all new ground. Not only is there the idea that some non-viable trees may be part of the ecosystem, and snags and rotting logs and stuff are part of the ecosystem. I'm not going to ask you to redesign any of this with this in mind, but the kind of thing we ought to be thinking about in the long term, and a radical approach to these things is perhaps if this were brand new and we were just reviewing something that's already been approved, we might think about killing or cutting down some of those Norway maples, because they really are invasive. And there's a danger, particularly on the new developed part of the site, that they start creating a canopy that doesn't allow things to grow underneath and start slowly displacing the oaks, which are the more natural thing. So that long term, maybe we ought to be thinking about killing Norway maples and letting them rot or letting them stand there as snags.
I think it's a good point. Like, if I remember correctly, I mean, correct me if we're wrong from the applicant side, but that invasives plan, if I remember Tom talking about, like, when some of this stuff's getting cut down, it's basically getting left in place. And like, my understanding was he was going to kind of oversee that. So maybe that's just a nod to you, Alex, when this is going on, like that there's probably some need to go out and relative to the order of conditions, just watch what's going on in the restoration of those areas as outlined. Yeah, thanks, Werner. And then Alex.
Yeah, if there are no other commissioners, I just have a quick question and then a couple of comments. I guess in response, Mark's that bit on the invasives. Yeah, I think being involved in that, and I think it's also going to be, it will involve the wording of how the conservation restriction would be. Some of the standard jumping off point for conservation restrictions now includes specific clauses for invasives that they're, if a certain plan is submitted to a conservation commission, it can be approved, removals can be approved by the agent or the commission. So something like that would cover the eventuality where if we wanted to execute a separate strategy related to a specific species like Norway maple, we could do something like that.
It's a good point, which is like, this is with the conservation restrictions, a long-term management strategy as opposed to kind of just this period of development.
I think something else, and this is more of a comment, but I did note that in the previous order of conditions, it specifically bans the use of herbicides within areas of the wetland buffer zone. So I think that's something we want to keep in mind if you're looking at an invasive management strategy. there's certainly a spectrum of those available, but I think having one that would prioritize mechanical removal, if assuming that were a condition that would be included in the amended order, that's something that we want to keep in mind as well. And this is more just an operational concern, but I did note in the presentation, specifically on the conservation restriction slide, I think one of those slides was outdated. The square footage for lot 23 was, I think, in the high 80s, and then there was a amended version of that was sent over to staff to supplement that. Don, am I correct there?
I did not catch that difference, but I can certainly show you the latest Conservation Commission's restriction slide.
Okay. So I believe the one in the presentation was one we had received previously, but then I had received from you sort of an updated one, and I just wanted to make sure that that was the one of record, right?
This is the updated one.
Sure. So I think the one that was in the presentation had lot 23 at 85,000 square feet or something like that, and so I just want to make sure that this is the one of record.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the one that's in the record online, the one we're
Okay.
looking at right now, yeah.
That's
as
what
I-
I have from my end, and just to say from an operational DPW point of view, certainly this tricky business of the 100 to 150, when sort of everyone has jurisdiction, is something that requires a lot of oversight, and looking at it from both the Conservation Commission point of view and from the DPW tree preservation, there's a lot of vectors and elements, and trying to find something that actually upholds the values of everyone and the sort of the onus of the various departments and commissions is a tricky business. So certainly something we're working on moving forward, and appreciate the flexibility of the commission in reviewing this, but also in the applicant of addressing these new changes.
Yeah, I would just say, Mr. Gentile too, like I really appreciate the organization and work that went into addressing the comments from last time. It, kind of the systematic update was very helpful, so.
Oh, thank you. And I'll give a lot of that credit to Mr. Zarello, who came forward with the presentation.
Great. And then we'll turn to the public. It looks like Benedicta has her hand up.
Hi, thank you for your time. Benedicta Howell, town meeting member, longtime resident and neighbor. I've known 3 generations of that property, as I mentioned last time. Thank you all for being very organized and getting into this now, into the meat of the matter. I've been coming to all the meetings, and there are a lot of us on this tonight, not always been there, but we're all following this closely because we do care about this property. While I make my comments, does anybody have a real live picture of the site? While I ask the questions, because I think it would be great to look at the site for everybody to see what it really looks like. We're all talking about this and looking at plans, and I thought, what a shame one doesn't really see what it looks like. So my questions are, I'm glad that you are following the tree plan and the new tree planting plan and the new tree law, and focus on that. The word unviable, we all are enjoying thinking about that. I just wanted to say, in case you haven't looked it up, not capable of working successfully, not feasible. I have walked in this property, and there are they don't feel like they're in poor situation, these trees. It is a very natural, very beautiful area that, again, was not able to be developed in the past because of the vernal pools. And so now here we are with a development of 5 very large houses, larger than any of the houses in the neighborhood, which already has large houses. So that's why a real photo might help you all. If you were to see a real photo, respectfully, this neighborhood looks very different from the neighborhood next to it and everything else in Brookline. It does, in fact, have super manicured lawns and kind of very structured metal fences and a lot of signage up. A lot of Cindy Stumpo signage up, and a lot of it looks like a very serious development in another neighborhood in another state. So it doesn't look like that. So when people were concerned about, is the back going to just be mowed and look different and the ecosystem's going to change, it already has changed a lot. It has a color grass that I've never seen around here, belongs in Florida. So you do all need to think about that, and I wish we could bring a real live photo up so you could see what it looks like already. And the positive ecosystem that's there now, that's been very good for a long time, has already been changed, but this back lot, 23, could still stay the same, if people were careful. There we go. Thank you. So,
You're welcome.
when the previous owner, Caroline Levine, sold it to Cindy Stumpo, nobody ever anticipated this would come in like this. And so these houses here that we're looking at, just remember, they're bigger than all the houses that you see. They're bigger than the houses in the neighborhood. There's only 1 or 2 houses on Lee Street that are this size. So you just have to remember the supersized houses and see those lawns. They are extremely manicured. So this is great. I don't know about you all. I think this is fantastic looking at this photo now. And if somebody could use their cursor to show what we're talking about. Oh, my cursor's working. That's what we're talking about, this whole area. See? And all of these houses got jammed in. I mean, how anybody can even handle, buying $15 million houses right next to each other, that's another matter. But we're talking about this area, this beautiful area that could still be saved. And look, everybody else has.
I think, Benedict, I think it's worth pointing out. I mean, the reason I brought it up is, I think we are looking at that relative to the buffer in our jurisdiction. And it's important to us, as we conveyed, that the Maniscalco law, doesn't extend into the 150-foot buffer, and it should be a wetland conservation mix. And this should be an effort to maintain the functions and values inside that buffer as much as possible within our jurisdiction and with what's been submitted. And I think it's right. I think your concerns are reflective of what we are concerned about as well for those areas. So.
Thank you. And Marcus, if I may, I mean, I just asked a neighbor up there, are these, I do not believe that, would have been great to keep that up. Those trees are not dead, or in poor shape. And but arborists know what they're doing, but I don't believe those are in poor shape. You could see them right there. So I would just say that, considering your ecosystem and whatever your jurisdiction is, I am respectful that this was passed back in the day and laws have changed and it's in a situation, but this is an evolving plan, and we need to, this is Brookline. We got to save Brookline. Look at the new logo. The logo has trees. So I will also say we've got to talk about lighting, and you all need to consider the lighting. We have to have a very, very strict lighting plan that has to be followed, because it has not been followed by this developer elsewhere. So that is something everybody's terrified about, and I keep bringing it up. There has been extensive, crazy lighting shooting out everywhere like Disney World, and so please focus on that here.
We appreciate your input, Benedict, and I know you've been attending and contributing to the conversation.
I've been walking in that land for, as I said, 3 generations. I've vernal pools of fish, great stuff back there.
Okay. Brian Anderson.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Quigley. Byron Anderson, and a butter at 360 Lee Street. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. I wanted to go back to a comment that Mr. McManus said a few minutes ago, indicating that the large viable maples on the property are not going to be removed. If somebody can screen share the grid of different trees, we could look at that, or we could look at the updated landscape plan. There are 2 different trees, one of which is tree number 18. It's a maple of 28 inches diameter. It's set to be removed. Yep. So it says there, and then there's tree number, I think it is, this looks like a different number. In a previous listing, it was maple number 38. It was a maple 24 inches in diameter, and it was also to be removed. And perhaps if we look at the actual landscape depiction and the graphical format that has the red dots, we might be able to see it. It's a little bit faded on there. But if you scroll it, or if you zoom in, you'll see that there's little T, markers there for the different trees. So 38, it looks like a red dot. And and maybe the numbering has changed, but the supplemental materials that were dated from 5/30/25, so earlier this year, it indicated tree number 38, which is a 24-inch maple, was set to be removed, as well as tree number 18, a 28-inch maple, also to be removed. So I kind of take issue with what Mr. McManus said, that the maples that are viable here are set to be maintained.
Yeah, I know, Byron, you had commented on this at our last meeting as well. Paul, response?
Yes, what to answer Mr. Anderson's question, what I was referring to is in the back area where we're proposing invasives management. We propose to go, for example, and pull out the garlic mustard and other invasives. That's just one example. But in that invasives management area, we do not propose to cut down the Norway maples as part of our invasives management. So I was speaking specifically to that, to that issue, which I just wanted to clarify, because Mark had mentioned it in passing, but it's, you know, it's a substantial amount of additional planting. So my comment related to the invasives management area, which is outside of the project, you know, what one would typically define as the project footprint.
Okay.
Tree 38 is not in the buffer.
And I think I think last time as well, we talked specifically about these trees, and I hear you, Byron, around those being removed. I think they're proposing to remove them, is my understanding. Those larger trees that we had identified, I think that sit within the envelope of the proposed house, if I remember correctly. Are those the ones you're thinking about?
So the tree number 38 is within the 150-foot buffer. It's not within the 100-foot buffer, right? So I think, you know, we have a 150-foot buffer, which is certainly larger than other jurisdictions and towns and municipalities, but I think we do that for a reason. And so we're thinking about maintaining the integrity of the buffer zone as we define it in Brookline, as Ms. Roberta Schnorr had mentioned a few minutes ago. I think we should be looking at it within the 150-foot context, recognizing that within 100-foot, you know, that is certainly even more, you know, sensitive. But I think that we have 150-foot for a reason to consider, you know, those sorts of changes. On the updated landscape plan, when we look at the red dots, there's also some changes there compared to previous versions that we've seen in the last supplemental materials, again dated 5/30/25. There were some trees down at the bottom. I think it was trees 31 and 32 were not set to be removed, but now they are. They're indicated by red dots. And so when we're thinking and being very sensitive to the tree protection for the bylaw, which I think, you know, is certainly understandable, I think we need some clarity on, you know, what is going to be removed, what's not, and if these are incremental trees to be removed compared to previous plans that were put in front of the commission, why those were added.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. Comments from the applicant. I'm looking at them as well.
Yeah,
you're talking about these here, I imagine. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, down towards the bottom. They're a little bit
trees.
faint. Yeah, well, right. Those are also incremental ones that are to be added by, you know, I think it's what, 24 and 25. It's a little bit faint there, but yeah, those are added, as well as 31 and 32. In previous versions, again, if you look at the supplemental materials, those were not set to be removed.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great, Mark. I mean, I'm curious too, in that, you know, they're outside the area of disturbance, as you've articulated as well. So we're just curious. Yep.
Those trees along the edge of the 100-foot buffer are compromised and unviable. There are 9 red maples, AR9, it's Acer rubrum, to be planted in their stead. So we were placing those trees, okay? That triple tree, number 38, it's got a triple trunk, and it's, again,
that's this right here. This is 38.
Yeah, it's unviable, you know, and not only that, but if we were to keep that, you know, we couldn't build a house because you'd have a tree save area in the way. And somebody would say, well, build a wall and save it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Not when you're putting in 8 more red oaks, you're putting in 8 more eastern red cedars. You're putting in 9 more, red maples. These are all trees that should be in the 100-foot buffer. They're going to be viable trees. They're going to be reasonable sized trees, and they're going to be trees that, you should have there. I mean, I think that this discussion is really, I'm a landscape architect. I'd rather have a tree that's going to be there for the next 25, 50 years than to try and, put a tree like those that were just described, sort of, let's keep those trees.
Right.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and it's really a matter of opinion. So I can
Thanks,
understand.
Mark. I
understand
appreciate
his
it. I
opinion.
want to make sure we keep moving too, because we've got other
Yeah.
things on our agenda as well. Richard Nangle, sorry. I'm gonna botch everybody's name by the end of the evening. So yeah.
Hi there, Richard Nangle, Town Meeting Member Precinct 15. I want to support
We're losing your
Benedict's
audio.
comments.
Richard.
It's
Yep.
always interesting to hear how it's always interesting to see that a Stumpo property never has viable trees. This developer is a serial violator when it comes to lighting, when it comes to trees, when it comes to blasting, whatever it is, they're going to violate it. I think this needs to go back to the drawing board. That entire area, 20 of Sears Road, has non-conforming light, and it's very upsetting to the people who live around there. There's talk in town hall of sanctions for this developer, and that's a good thing. I appreciate the work this board does, but this project is a non-starter. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. We appreciate your input. Are there any other? Okay, Sylvia. I was going to ask if there's other public comment, but yeah, absolutely, have your hand up.
Hi, this is Sylvia Westfall and Christoph Westfall. We're abutters at 41 Sears Road. Sorry, oh, here's our video. And I think we want to second Richard's sentiments as well as Benedicta's about just ensuring that any of these plans for planting, is there a mechanism to ensure that they are followed through? Because we have personal experience on a property line where you can actually see.
Yeah, they never planted anything. They
Yeah,
built 6 feet above. It
Literally,
never got done.
They build their next structure within 3 feet of our property line, and what you look at 6 feet above, where our fence ends at 6 feet, you see grass. And when we spoke to the developer about any plans to plant trees, they said sure, and the trees are not there. We can literally see the grass of the neighbor. So we just want to make sure that if these plans are put forth, that there's not only a mechanism to approve them, but to follow through and make sure that these things are happening.
And the process that we're going through right now, which is to issue this amended order of conditions, is exactly that. It's a set of conditions that they have to comply with as part of the construction project. And then they have to receive a certificate of compliance with those orders in order to kind of complete the process. And it's Alex's job and the job of the town to oversee that as well. So we have processes, and that's part of our responsibility as a commission to make sure these things get done. Although the burden on getting it done, I will be clear, is on the developer. We're here just to make sure that those conditions are met. And I think the really helpful thing I would say too here is that conservation restriction that Alex pointed out is really important, because that is an ongoing and long-term obligation that also has fairly serious and significant responsibilities on the part of the landowner about how to act in that space, what you can do, what you can't do. You have to come before the commission before certain things are executed. And actually, that's an active part of the responsibility of the commission having those restrictions. And we see this quite frequently things
And
happen
I-
on properties. Yeah.
And do they doing the same thing in that house where they're not digging into the bedrock and they're lifting the whole land by like 10 or 15 feet, like with the other houses, or not?
No, I don't.
I'll defer to the applicant. I'm not sure this is about means and methods of construction.
Yeah, I don't believe so, and I defer to Vern Porter on that.
Yeah, I can take a shot at that one. No, we did testing in front for the drainage and we were able to dig down pretty deep. And then the house is just gonna be, it's gonna be raised a little bit in the front, but the idea was when you walk out to the basement, you're at the existing grade. So
What is a
behind the
little
house-
bit? Because the house next to us, I think, was raised like 10 or 15 feet, honestly. What is a little?
I don't have,
And Vern, you're not
You
blasting.
have to send you a picture
We
from
have-
our.
blasting.
Or-
Not
The end
blasting,
of our
it's less
fence
than-
is
it's
the beginning of the
less than
grass.
4 feet.
Sorry.
And I think on the topic of drainage, the other thing to make sure is that also is there a mechanism to do testing? I mean, we're not complaining because ever since those houses were built, our backyard used to be a
Wet, now
swimming
it's
pool and now it's
dry.
completely dry.
So that's
But
clearly
we hear from
changed.
the neighbors on the other side that they get flooded all the time. So all the construction that happened right behind us has benefited us, but definitely changed, how stormwater drains. So I think on behalf of the neighbors who are going to be abutters of this property, I would just want to make sure that the correct tests are being done to truly ensure that whatever the prediction is for the drainage is really happening.
They also there are ongoing obligations relative to maintenance and then testing as well around infiltration for the drainage galleys. And then also, I mean, there's been calculations previously around detention facilities, but the state regulations dictate the design criteria for those facilities. So there are lots of rules and calculations that the applicant had to go through.
We didn't change a lot of the design, even though the house got a lot smaller. We tried to keep most of the structures the same. And when you look at all the storms, we have a pretty good reduction, probably about in each storm, probably 15% reduction in runoff going off the site. So it's
And also say, like, in this jurisdiction for the Conservation Commission, our responsibility is to make sure that the stormwater is controlled appropriately, consistent with the state guidelines and the calculations. And, we've reviewed that information. We did that under the original NOI. And I think as they've scaled back the project, and so the net consequence here is that the impact is lower than what they had submitted previously. We weren't frankly, this is a major improvement relative to what had been submitted originally for this property, or probably particularly relative to stormwater. That's not a value judgment. I think it's just a factual statement relative to the impact on the landscape.
And I'll just say, Marcus, if it's all right from my end, from the enforcement side of things, our job in the conservation office is once an order of conditions is issued to make sure that order of conditions is being followed. And that's something that we monitor, and it's something that, and I will say this comment is agnostic to whatever the project is, not specific to this project or any project. It's every project that has an order of conditions. They have to abide by those. And if they want to change something that has been approved by the commission, they have to come before the commission to request that change. Or if it's a larger scale change, an amended order of conditions. If it's, if there's a violation there, we issue a notice of violation. If it's a bigger violation, we issue an enforcement order. So there are steps we take from an oversight point of view to make sure that after that permit is issued, that it's being, complied with. And that's, again, across the board for every applicant, regardless of, we treat them all in that objective sense that we ongoing monitoring maintenance.
So I'm nearly an hour behind on the schedule for the agenda, and I want to be respectful for the other applicants who are here this evening and our agenda. Is there any additional thoughts from the commission? Otherwise, I think we would accept a motion to close the hearing. Roberta?
Can I ask just a quick question, just with respect to Mr. Zerillo's point about landscaping and what's viable and what isn't? Is there a possibility, you are going to be removing or proposing to remove some trees that were scheduled to be maintained? into 2023. Is it possible to do the new plantings without removing those? You know, let's be a bit of a forest and let that continue to flourish. And maybe if some of the other ones don't come in, you know, things will move forward. Is that possible from a landscape perspective?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well,
I'm asking you if it's possible. I'm asking whether the applicant would consider that, because I
Is there
think
an opportunity to preserve more of the trees?
Anything is possible. And if you want those trees to remain, we can keep them. I don't believe it's a good idea because I think you need new trees there to replace ones that are in poor condition and unviable. That's my opinion. As a landscape architect, I've been doing this for 50 years. I know that I'm a builder, not a conservationist. Okay, I know that because that's what I've done. But I can tell you that the planting that we have now is basically the same planting we had before. And the trees that are being removed are basically the same trees that were going to be removed before, except for those 3 trees or 4 trees that are right on the 100-foot buffer line. And part of that is because some of those trees, like I mentioned before, they could be kept. If that's the difference, we'll keep them.
I think that's really helpful, Mark. And I think relative to just process this evening, does the commission feel like it has enough information in order to issue an amended order? And if so, is there a motion to close the hearing?
I move we close the hearing.
Mr. Chair, could I just ask a quick question before you close the hearing?
Yes.
When will you deliberate on this?
I mean, so our process is we put a draft order of conditions together for our review. And I'm assuming, Alex, we have 21 days, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah, so we would, what we
That's
would
normally
do,
the thing, yeah.
based on the input from this public hearing, we would draft an order of conditions to be reviewed at our next meeting, which I believe is Tuesday, August 5th.
Thank you.
That would be, you know, discussed and reviewed by the commission, and sometimes in those meetings it's issued as is, and sometimes a discussion comes about where we'd have a conditional vote to say it will be issued per the following changes, and then those are edited at a staff level before being signed by the commission.
August 5th, that was my question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we'll get the draft and we'll talk about it, and then we'll, you know, likely, well, we would vote on issuing the order as amended.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. So Pam had a motion to close the hearing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I second.
Will seconds, and we'll do a roll call vote. So Will,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Roberta,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Thank you, everyone. I know this is a lot longer than we anticipated.
Priya's here.
Sorry.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think a couple of the applicants are sticking around for the next item.
Marcus, we also have Priya here for.
Oh, Priya is
Yeah.
here. Oh,
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
geez. Okay.
You can put
Process wise, what do I do here, Alex?
I'm done with this
I
meeting,
mean,
which is mine. The
In
next
terms
one
of
is
just
actually
being-
Cindy's, so I'm gonna stay on. but we
wait,
can-
Vern, you need to mute yourself. Thank you.
So in terms of being well behind on the agenda,
Yep.
the next couple items I'm anticipating should be short, and then for,
Well, no, I'm asking on Priya voting.
oh,
Because I
okay.
didn't do roll call vote for her. Can I still include her in the vote to close the hearing? Are you fine with that? Or, I mean, we have a quorum, but
Yeah,
I didn't realize she is on. Yeah,
I
sorry
think
about that,
maybe it's
Priya.
I think maybe it's just an abstain for the sake of,
Are you all right with that, Priya?
Yeah, that's fine. I was
I
gonna vote yes,
apologize.
but it doesn't really impact the outcome
I
at
need,
all.
I need to drag you into the right place on my
Oh, it's
Zoom
a good
meeting to make
clarification.
sure I've got this right. So
Okay, I'd be on camera, but I'm not in, I was
that's no
trying to-
problem.
It's
You're
been
not
rough.
required, you're not required to be on camera. All right, so our next item for the agenda this evening is an overview discussion and vote of approval for proposed changes for 154 Woodland Road, DEP file 0195 Brookline Wetland Bylaw 2204.
I believe a couple of the applicants are present. If you'd like to speak to the proposed solution there.
Was this about the wall?
Yes.
Oh, I have an image of a stacked stone wall that I'd like to share if I can do it this time, and see if this meets the criteria of a stacked stone wall.
So is that the proposed solution, Mark, to shift to a stacked stone wall?
Yeah, I think that Alex had mentioned that a stacked stone wall similar to a typical, field wall would be reasonable to do. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to just show you an image of what they would like to do to make sure that, it complies.
Right.
Did I do it right that time?
Yeah.
You see? So this is a stacked stone wall. It's not boulders. It's essentially flat stone. And so the question is this acceptable?
Can I ask, is there any mortaring? This is one of the considerations here with the sort of stone wall exemption with the Wetland Protection Act, is that it basically
no
promote
mortar.
wildlife passage and things like that.
No mortar.
You want
This
like
would
chipmunks to run through it and stuff.
No, this would have an 18-inch base of stone, and then the stone would be stacked stone would be on top of the stone base. 18 inches.
Stone base is like gravel or
Gravel, yes. Yeah. It's a typical stacked stone wall. No mortar.
Other questions from the commission?
I'm still absorbing this. You said there's 18 inches of gravel below this, and then the stones are stacked onto that bed of gravel.
Yeah, well, the gravel acts as a footing. Yes.
Feels like I'm in an awkward position determining what the specification is for a stacked stone wall.
Yeah,
under,
I mean,
under the regulation, but that seems awkward.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we had envisioned was your typical New England stone wall, which was just stacked on the ground. Is there
I know that's why I'm showing you this
Right.
picture.
Well, except we don't see the base in the picture, so I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah.
Does it require the base?
Well, yes, typically it does, because the soil situation is not always conducive to keeping the wall upright. But this wall is definitely, I mean, you can see it's chinked. There's like these little stones that are in between the bigger stones. That's called chinking, and that's when we put the stacked stone together. It holds the wall up, and this is a freestanding wall, and that's what it would be in the case of Woodland Road as well, which is why I sort of selected this one for you to see.
And how is it different from what you were proposing before?
The other wall was going to be concrete, maybe with veneer on it, or it would just be a stone wall. It would be mortared and sort of impervious, I guess you might
and how
consider.
deep would that one have gone? Would that have gone
That would have a 4-foot deep footing to frost
into the ground?
Into the ground, yes.
Of concrete.
Yes, of
So
concrete.
this is only 18 inches of gravel as compared to.
Yes.
Okay.
How high is it? How high is this wall, and how high is the wall that you're proposing?
I mean, I would venture to guess this wall's 3 feet high, and I think the wall that we're going to suggest, it just needs to be above bumper height. So it's basically the same height, I would say 3 feet.
And this is about 40 feet, Mark, you think, along the edge of that driveway there, if memory serves?
I should have showed you a picture of the plan, but it's it's 32 feet. The actual garage is 32 feet long, and it would project another 10 feet. So that's 42 feet. Yes, you're correct. beyond the front of the garage, towards the front of the house, because there's an open grade there, and they're concerned about sliding off the driveway in the snow.
This is Paul. I just revisited the regs where they have these exemptions, and it says simply one word: stone wall. It doesn't provide any additional guidance, and as I said, combines it into a single word even.
Yeah, I will say from my end, I did speak with DEP because I was equally sort of confused by that one word without a real definition. And in speaking with the circuit rider for DEP, she confirmed that, you know, philosophically looking for something stacked that still preserves wildlife values and meets that. So at least DEP's interpretation is something along the lines of, you know, on the spectrum of what we're seeing here versus the, you know, those field stone walls in the farm. I think is a freestanding, stacked, unmortared wall would meet that definition of stone wall.
And I can say from personal experience that, you know, animals will use this wall. The garter snakes will love it. And you know, they love those little voids. And I, you know, looking at this one, you know, there's certainly voids big enough for, excuse me, chipmunks and such. But the snakes in particular come to mind, would definitely make use of it.
I'm not going to tell the client that.
I mean, the challenge here, right, is the devil's in the details, like, and it's just too much to micromanage how big are the voids and like, you know, the exact means and methods. It's like, it's just too much for us to try to put a finer point on it unless it's like a complete deviation from what you proposed. What about the area around it? I mean, like you showed this picture with a manicured lawn. We had talked about that previously. Is there an opportunity to create some functions and values in the immediate vicinity that is not, you know, golf course like?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to imply that we're going to put lawn around the wall.
Oh yeah. That was something we talked about last time. So I just wanted to get enough.
I didn't imply that. No, we're going to. I imagine that you have driveway, which is asphalt. You have a curb, and then there will be planting in front of this wall, probably you know, spirea or something like that that'll flower, that's sort of bushy. On the backside, there'll be nothing because that's the buffer.
Just leaving it wild and yeah.
Yes. I mean, we'll have to make sure that it's, you know, it's not going to subside back there. But other than that, and we're going to use New England wildlife mix back there and just let it go. And we could work with Alex to put additional planting on the backside if.
Yeah, it seems like that assemblage of like, you know, natural like conditions after and kind of restored on the backside and you know, some habitat on the front, like is an improvement over what you had proposed last time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thoughts from the commission. So I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Pam's got her hand up actually.
Pam. Oh yeah, Pam.
Yeah, this is like contribution here. I think that it wasn't quite what I expected. I expected kind of more of a you know, natural shape and rocks. But anyway, but with someone who does have some experience with this kind of wall, what tends to happen is some of the little chinks start sort of falling out and you end up with something a little more natural over time. So I think
you knew, Mark, you were pushing up right up against the edge about what a stacked stone wall is.
Yeah, but I think we spent enough time on this. I think I would go ahead with this, and I think, you know, some attention to having something a little, you know, growing along it, or you know, that wildlife can kind of hide in there, and that's all. So I would.
Yeah, I'm with you, Pam, too, and Mark, we do appreciate you going back and pushing a little bit on this, and you know, trying to include some of the comments and thoughts here.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to vote to approve the proposed changes 154 Woodland?
I move we approve the proposed changes to the wall where the stacked wall is shown in the picture.
Okay, I second.
Pam seconds. All right, and we will do a roll call vote. Priya,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Roberta,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as, oh, Will, did I miss you? Will.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. And so the proposed changes are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Much appreciated.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
So, Mr. Chairman, the applicant for George Lane is not here, so just ask that we speak about those documents, and I'm happy to just move that agenda item behind the golf presentation, just to make sure that the folks we have in the meeting can have a chance to present.
Oh, sure. That's fine. So moving
Just
item
move
5
item
up.
4
Yeah,
down
okay,
the
great.
list.
Yep, we'll move item 4 since as long as yeah, we're behind, so that's probably fine. Let's go to item 5 then. So the review, discussion, and vote of approval of temporary changes to 1281 West Roxbury Parkway, DEP file 1200203, wetland Brookline Wetland Bylaw 24. All right, I'm reading all the numbers tonight, Alex.
You're doing great.
Great.
Awesome. I guess I'll get us started here. Chairman Quigley and fellow commissioners, my name is Justin Lawson. Lucky to be the general manager here over at Brookline Golf Course. And we got to spend some time with you all last year on quite an extensive permit application NOI that we look to address a lot of functionality, increasing habitat, and just overall improvement to the property of our 18-hole golf course here in town. We have gone through pretty extensive engineering studies looking at stream crossings that were still kind of an unknown at the time of our NOI. And one of those order of conditions to come back to you all as to our plans to provide transportation over these new resource areas and existing areas where we propose changes. We have put together pretty sizable scope of work for some upcoming construction activities in October. And as a result of some engineering services that we retained looking at some of these stream crossings with existing infrastructure and the type of foundations that we're going to require, are going to require additional services that are going to take some time. In the essence of protecting this recreational activity of golf and keeping access open and creating these new resource areas, we wanted to come before you this evening to kind of give you an update and request the use of a temporary culvert installation in some of these areas on the golf course, in existing resource areas and some of the new resource areas, and potentially reusing some of the existing culverts that are there today. I'm joined by golf course architect Mark Munjum. He's been with us all the way through the NOI, as well as our environmental scientist Mike Toohill, and his team have been working steadily on these plans all throughout. I'm just going to share my screen and kind of keep this brief and short. We did submit quite a bit of narrative and some plans to you all in advance. Just want to highlight some of these and maybe kick it open to some comments from our team and questions from all of you. Okay.
Great.
So let's see if this works. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Not quite yet on my end.
The little mouse.
There we go.
Dribble in the wheel. So this is a site map of the property, and I've highlighted these circles, areas that we're going to be referring to as we kind of talk tonight. A, B, C, and F. These are crossings. If you look closely here, A is a crossing, and there's already an existing pipe that's here in the ground of a drainage system that's just insufficient in its current capabilities. And oh, Jesus, computer. B is an additional crossing with an existing corrugated metal culvert that is here underneath the cart path. And these two areas, A and B, are the ones where there is a substantial sewer line that runs very, very close proximity to the main channel, where we're proposing to do some work and put in these bridges. Is going to require some additional studies and engineering services. C is an area where there will be a new channel that's being developed. As you can see right now, it is just a cart path crossing some grassy areas. Over here on our 8th hole, if we can get there. Come on, computer. Okay, F is an existing culvert that is in the ground. It is not currently daylighted, but our plans are to daylight this culvert, and we're going to be shifting the cart path to the left side of the hole and are going to need a crossing there. So we do anticipate these being temporary in nature. And let me go ahead and stop sharing and maybe kick it over to Mark and Mike if you guys want to add some additional context, and we've got some other documents that we can share. Mike or Mark.
Good, Mark. You're muted. Mark, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Mark Munjum, Munjum Golf Design. Commission members, we are, as Justin said, in the process of developing some construction documents for our first phase of work. The drainage of the property is our highest priority. The drainage work in the main channel that goes from the driving range up to the country club is our highest priority. As Justin said, there is one existing culvert crossing and one crossing that has a small diameter pipe, which we would like to, that we need to actually look at. And we had proposed putting a bridge in these locations. We've done some engineering studies on the soils, on the depth to bedrock, so that we know how deep, we have to go down to get stability for the bridge. But those bridges are also the bigger bridges on the site. Those bridges are ones that need to carry the maintenance equipment and emergency equipment to the backside of the site. So they're costly, and we really didn't have the time to do the full engineering to get the project underway. So we are requesting that the commission allow us to put some temporary crossings in those two locations to get us past this first phase of the project. The other one at hole number 3, as Justin said, it's just grass right now, but we're adding an emergency, or not an overflow area. At high water, the water comes across that hole, and we'd like to channel that to be able to move it across to the main channel. And then as Justin said, the last one is we're daylighting a pipe. We need to be able to cross to get carts, to be able to play from tee to green, and for walkers to get from tee to green as well. So we just need a crossing there, and we would like to use a temporary culvert crossing at this time. So Mike, if you have can you explain the crossings a little bit?
I can. Let me share my screen. Okay. We've actually got, this is the third golf hole, the A area that Justin was talking about. And this is the channel is open here and goes into a culvert underground. This is the area we're talking about daylighting. So we were actually asked, Conoco was asked to take a look at a number of different, that's why we've got A through H, I think, crossings. And what we wound up doing is taking a look at what we proposed for the channel. And I'll go down to the cross sections. And what we did is took the channel that we proposed, because we want to build the channel. That's the whole purpose of the bid this summer, is so we can get out there this fall, especially the main channel and the daylighting. So if we build the channels, we want to put pipe into the newly built channels, and we have to play between the width of the bottom of the channel and the height of the channel, and we have to keep a foot of cover on the pipe. So that's why we wound up with various pipe configurations in the different cross sections, because we're playing between the depth and the width. And so sometimes we had to use a bunch of little pipes, and sometimes we could use a couple of bigger pipes, or 3 bigger pipes. So again, this is all temporary, but the idea is to provide as much open area, orifice flow in those channels as possible, so we can keep the water moving through the channels, and make sure the pipes are at the invert of the channel, so we don't wind up with what in the Rivers Act what we're called hanging culverts. We don't want something that backs up before the culvert and hangs on the end of the culvert. So we put it down in the invert of the channel. So that's what all of these different cross sections represent.
Great. Yeah, I think a pretty clear description of what you guys are interested in. Questions from the commission? To me, it seems pretty straightforward. I mean, it's construction means and methods, and like it appears that you've been pretty thoughtful. Yeah, Pam. Oops, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I think everybody's getting tired. I'm among them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm just trying to kind of understand kind of procedurally where we are. That it all makes sense to do this as a temporary thing. But I think that I'm trying to think whether or not we would add in. I mean, we're in amended order land again.
No, I think this is because this is a temporary kind of, this is a temporary step, and per the order of conditions, there's already sort of a built-in bridge review down the way. That was I can't remember, one of the special conditions was that they would come back and reassess a bridge condition. So I think it would be appropriate to we could just vote at a commission, or you could vote at a commission level to approve the temporary change.
Okay. That sounds like a good way to go, because as I recall, I believe the regional office, Nero, had some questions about this project. So I think it's probably, handling it properly procedurally would probably behoove us all. So I think that makes sense. I mean, I don't think it would really make sense to amend the order. So I think that would be a good way to go. So we would just write up, that there would be this requested, come in, and we were approving it.
Yeah, basically this vote would reflect that, and then it would go into the sort of the record, and then when we would address it again when we talked about the bridges down the line.
Yeah, okay. And would the temporary culverts be sized in the same way as the permanent ones, or how would you handle that?
Well, the permanents are going to be bridges. So the sizing is different, but it's just a sizing based upon the geometry of the channel that where we can get as much area as we could, Pam.
Okay.
Yeah, I think even relative to construction means and methods, like if there are deviations, that Alex probably can approve those in the field administratively too. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we see a lot on construction sites, and frankly, probably don't come as often as they should to talk with us about means and methods. So this is really appreciated and, quite reasonable.
Yeah.
So Alex, what are we actually voting for? I guess that's what Pam's asking.
I think I would view this as this is a vote to, I think I phrased it in the agenda here. This is a vote to approve the temporary change to the 1281 West Roxbury Parkway, basically the installation of temporary culverts. So it would be a vote to approve temporary culverts at 1281 West Roxbury Parkway.
Do we want to do that like under your oversight or something like that? I mean, is it really just saying like, we don't think this rises to any kind of an official amendment or modification.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think we can add in, per conservation and resource manager oversight or something like that, if just to make sure that it has a little bit of on the boots presence as an ongoing thing. But I think, again, procedurally, just from a vote to approve that temporary change should be sufficient.
Well, let's just stick with that then. Any other questions? Seems like we're in good shape. All right. Is there, I don't think there's anybody from the public, right? So, is there a vote? Is there a?
I
motion?
move that we approve temporary changes at 1281 West Roxbury Parkway. DEP number 120-0203, Brookline Wetlands Bylaw 24-03 with staff oversight.
Right. Is there a second?
Can we say approve the installation of temporary culverts rather than just temporary changes? Seems a little.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I'll let Roberta do this.
Friendly amendment.
You just volunteered.
I'll second.
That as proposed, yeah. So seconded by Roberta, and we'll do a roll call vote. Priya?
You're muted.
Yes. Sorry.
Great. Will?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Roberta?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Great.
Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good luck with
your patience.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Let's go back then, Alex, to give us the complete story on the overview and discussion and not vote of approval. Like we're not going to vote. We just need to get an update.
So we
George.
could, you could vote for approval on the remediation actions even without the contractor here. So I met with John Dick, Rebecca and I met with him on site to look at the remediation plan. He submitted a couple of documents to us, which I can share. They are in the packet here. I'll just show you really quick. So he submitted just a quick sketch of sort of the area that we're looking at. This is that, the 35 George Lane on top, that's the pool project. And then below 278 Warren, that's the monastery. This, square area with the proposed silt fence is it just shows the disturbed area there, that 982 square feet in the middle. Mr. Dick submitted a rough plan to me, which was submitted to you for approval, which essentially lays out, let me pull this up here. Sorry, I got a lot of tabs open. This guy. Essentially that he's going to start stabilizing the site sort of as soon as possible. Look into mitigation plantings in the area, a total of 35 shrubs, 9 trees with a dense distribution, planning on some die-off, and then monitor over the next few seasons. And just in meeting with him on site, he seemed very, cordial and professional and committed to making sure that this area, gets the attention it deserves. And I think it'll actually come away a little better than it was, given that there's knotweed and some invasives and some other material in there. I think he seemed to me, committed to restoring this area, and both sides of this, both the 35 George and the monastery, both seem committed to make it right and sort of having this cohesive plan to make that happen.
Right.
Is there any advantage, Alex, to waiting to, like, if we wait to actually hear from the Mr. Dick, or if the sooner he gets started, the better?
It's one of those things where he's not going to be able to put some of the big stuff into the ground now, but I think, objectively, ideally, you want to kind of move on these remediation plans if you can. I think a lot of what I'm saying tonight is probably what he would present, given the materials I have. So I don't see a strong preference one way or another for, or a strong preference for waiting. I think you could hypothetically, vote on this, and I could communicate that with Mr. Dick and both the property owner at 35 George and at 278 Warren, and let them know, what the plan is.
Does anyone object to taking a vote this evening? Good to move forward.
Yeah.
I guess I have to vote. I should, that's really the vote, isn't it? But is there a motion to approve the remediation actions for 35 George Lane and 268?
Yes, I move we approve the proposed
I second.
remediation action.
Will seconds, okay, and Priya,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Pamela,
Yes.
Pam, sorry, I'm like reading the names.
Sorry.
Roberta, it is
Yes.
good, right, Pam, Werner. Yes, and I'll vote yes as well. All right, great. Thanks, Alex, and I'm sure you'll be out there and seeing what's going on. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep you just updated at general staff updates as developments happen.
that's good. And we are to item 6, open space plan, as open space and recreation plan overview, discussion, and vote on letter of support. This is exciting.
It is very exciting, and given that it's 9:01, I promise I'll do a brief version of this, and you won't get the full bells and whistles. But we still do want to. I still do want to share a good amount about it and make sure you know what we've been up to over on that side of the shop. So the open space and recreation plan update. You know, this is a process that I jumped into about a year ago when I was still in my old position, but I was lucky enough to join a team of a lot of people that knew what they're doing, including a committee that consisted of lots of members from lots of boards and commissions and lots of experience all over. And right jumping in the door, you know, I jumped in with commissioners who were already contributing to this plan. So tonight I just wanted to go over an overview of this plan, what our process looked like, what updates and changes we've made since the 2018 plan, where we go from here, and then just see if you all had any questions for us. This is what our committee looked like. It was very robust. If you look on the left here, I think that it was an 18-person committee from, you know, every board and commission and committee in town, basically, with the goal of having as much input as possible and represent as many interests as possible, because this open space is for everybody. From staff support side of things, you know, we had lots of input from not only our internal team here. You know, Rebecca was essential in putting together most of this stuff. I would have been completely lost in the woods without her. But also certainly lots of input from the directors and from the engineers and from the recreation team. We got a lot of input from all over as we work toward building out our goals and our action plan. Really our purpose in putting an open space plan together, you know, some of these reasons are a little more philosophical than others. You know, we want to put together an asset that's really useful for the residents of the town, but also the staff of the town, to say this is kind of our one-stop shop for knowledge about the open space in town. We want to identify the needs, the goals, and objectives, and build this roadmap to say this is what the town needs to meet its vision, and this is how we're going to get there. And nuts and bolts wise, an open space plan qualifies us for state and federal grants, you know, in addition to having a cohesive planning process and planning for our future. You know, having an identified plan that can qualify you for things can open up a lot of opportunities. We had a similar focuses to the previous plan, where we looked at greenways and transportation, open space protection and zoning, infrastructure and resource protection. And in previous years, climate change and climate resiliency was its own subcommittee, but we decided the committee decided that that was a ubiquitous issue and should be really addressed by all those committees. So during the process, all subcommittees talked about climate resiliency and identified a lot of opportunities for us with open space. And so really, as we look at this plan, it has a lot of information in it. I think it's 264 pages or something like that. We get a lot of background on the community in Brookline, as well as the resources in Brookline. We have a comprehensive inventory of our open space. And then we go through that full, here are the needs, here are our goals to meet those needs, here is our quantifiable plan to get there, as well as just resources such as maps and other sort of community resources. I wanted to tip this over to Marcus a little bit, because I think it would be helpful to hear from committee members and the committee chair, in that, you know, we really wanted to focus as much as possible from a staff point of view to bring this plan from the committee's point of view. So we wanted to hear from the committee and for them to have their voice and for us to help shape that. But maybe, Marcus, if you could speak a little bit about our process.
I mean, one of the really interesting things that developed early in the process was, as a group, the committee suggested that we specifically need to revise the community vision. So put some cohesive vision up front about why are we doing all of this? What is the intent of the open space plan? And this is a pretty significant change from the previous version. And so we actually formed a temporary committee made up of a small group to revise the community vision. I think it's a really big add, and it's pretty thoughtful. I mean, I ended up being the chair of that subcommittee too. But I encourage you to read that component. It's something that has a lot of thought put into it. And some nice wordsmithing. So we didn't just go through the motions, which we could have done. But I think this is indicative of kind of the entire process too. This was just a little piece. Alex and the rest of the team and DPW, I did similar things with the rest of the plan, which was like not just go through the motions, but really make this something that's substantively different. But that, that vision is one thing I encourage you to read for sure.
That's great. So yeah, when this was from our committee, they said, we had a meeting where they said, this isn't inspiring. This statement is not inspiring. This is our chance to stand up and say, this is what we want Brookline to be in 2030 and 2040 and 2050 and 3050, and this is how we can work toward that. And so I think it was honestly really inspiring for the whole committee. And then to come back with these big ideas to jump into was really great. So from that, we were able to build an analysis of needs using community survey data and using information from the info sessions and then the experiences of the committee members to then build into goals and broad steps and then really build out an action plan of, I think, around 200 actionable items moving forward in our plan. To give you some ideas of, this is what I've done in presentations to other boards, is talk about specific objectives that are right under the umbrella of that board or commission. So when we look at, the role Conservation Commission is going to have moving forward in the open space plan, right here, when we talk about protecting parks with habitat value, increasing acreage of conservation restriction, increasing biodiversity, strengthening wetland buffer zones, and increasing just awareness of these passive open spaces and sanctuaries. These are all things that I'm going to work toward with you folks to try to move forward over the next 10 years, which is what we're looking at with this open space plan. This gives you an idea of what we've updated from 2018. A lot of this stuff is brand new. A lot of sections we basically completely started over. Some sections we were really lucky to have keen eyes of most of the commissioners that are here tonight to go through and help us update some of these earlier sections and make sure they were clean and crisp and had all the information we need. And then to go through and really sort of shine up the nuts and bolts on everything else. This gives you an idea of the visual upgrade that we have done with the open space plan. So there's a lot of information in the previous open space plan, and it was an award-winning plan. It was really something to hold up and say, this has a lot of great information in it. We had the opportunity, I think, to put a little bit more shine on it and make it a little more sort of user-facing and friendly. So a lot of this is Rebecca's work. A lot of it is working with the designer, but it was coming up with ways to present the information we had in a way that was a little more engaging and really provided the information that we wanted not only the user of the plan to have, but also us as staff to have it be as usable as possible. There was some information in the plan that we found was really helpful if you had a very specific position somewhere in the Parks Department, but it wasn't super helpful to everyone else, and it wasn't required by the state. So we tried to make sure that everything in here was either a base requirement or was going to be sort of a vital import or really of use to our sustainability staff or our park staff. This shows you an idea of our upgrade to the small spaces. We actually added about 27 small open spaces that weren't in the previous plan that sort of got lost in the dust around there. And some of them are tiny triangles and strips of land, but we wanted to make sure to catalog all the open space in town. And then to give you an idea of what our action plan looks like, again, just in terms of, most of this is a visual upgrade, but we wanted to make sure that all of our action items were very quantifiable, were very measurable. And then even as we built this, we built out some vectors and columns that weren't here in the past, such as specifically looking at funding source and funding levels and priority levels. We wanted to make, and staff commitment levels, you know, we want to make sure that, is this something that's going to take a day of your life for the next 10 years? Or is it going to be something that we can do in a long weekend? You know, it's something that, so we want to make sure as I work toward putting together a 10-year calendar for what this looks like, that it's all going to be achievable moving forward.
This page is really nice and indicative too. I mean, look at the left there. You know, we again, that was an award-winning plan, but at this point, it feels like 1918 or something instead of 2018 compared to like the really compelling content. I'm stunned.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like this was the objective, and yet we achieved something great. So very
And you didn't even use AI.
not that I'll tell you, at least.
Yeah, there's probably some in there, I'm assuming, but anyway.
I encourage everyone to look through the whole thing because it's like visually compelling and like you'll catch in a way that I think the old plan like is just a lot of words and you're like, oh, it's just like too much black and white. You catch yourself reading stuff because your eyes are drawn to the pictures, to the words, to the, you know, especially on the property and like those. Yeah, it's like I never really thought about Bealton Stedman Street Circle, but now I know all this information because my eye was sort of drawn to it. So
yeah,
that's great. To give you an idea of where we're at in this process, this summer is when I go around and shop this around to all the boards and commissions. So I have presented this to the Park and Recreation Commission. I presented it to the planning board. I'm presenting it to you folks tonight, and then eventually it will go before the select board either later this summer or early in the fall. We have received feedback from the Division of Conservation Services. Some of that Rebecca and I are editing in now. We're still waiting on feedback from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. These are letters that are sort of required as part of the thing. Obviously, we want to make sure we're hitting our metrics there, but also to make sure we can include those letters of support in the final plan. Ideally, should this plan be passed by select board and we meet all the conditions approved by the state, we do have conditional approval from the state. We would really start implementing it this fall, kick off with a sort of a planning meeting at a staff level and start talking about what the next few years of implementing this plan looks like. We shared the draft as part of this agenda packet. The draft's available to the public as well. We do encourage you all really had a role in this, whether you were on the committee or not. So I encourage you all to look through it. We're pretty proud of what we put together. But I was curious if there are any questions from the commission regarding this plan and the update process in general.
I have just one more comment that I'd like to commend you and Rebecca on. All of the maps in the back in the index, water is always blue, and it's so helpful, right? Water is blue, water spaces are blue, whichever map you're looking at, always blue. So
the weird thing that we never thought of, and I think Willie, you pointed out, you're like, can you just make the water blue? That would be great.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah, I would say, Will, I know you came to like a ton of these meetings. We had Pallavi early on too, contributing. I know she's not here anymore, but she contributed early on and had to step back a little bit from that. But yeah, it was great. I think the commission has an important role here, and of course, Alex and Rebecca did all the lifting. Is the truth. But I think this is really great. I am excited to support it, and for all of us to have our names on it too. When we're all gone, just 200 years from now, these are the kinds of documents that'll still exist in the files in Brookline. So it's exciting to get these kinds of things done and have an impact at a scale we normally don't get to weigh in.
As someone who did not contribute practically at all of this, but was involved in some previous ones, I know how much work it is, and it really is a change. I mean, there's it's always been good and it just gets better. So those of you who did do this, you did it for all of us, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And I mean, this is a decades long effort, Warner, too. So, I mean, many of you contributed in really significant ways far before I was ever even involved in the commission, and in the past versions as well. So, I think
And
that's
this
great.
one is good for how many years?
7.
So it's good. And we thought it was good for 7, but they just updated the stuff and said that if we we have to make a couple of tweaks on our end, and I can talk about procedure wise there with Marcus outside of this meeting, but they said we could potentially have it good for 10 years.
Wow.
Which would buy us 3 more years, and then it would also line us up with the CARP plan that we're doing from the sustainability side in terms of timelines. So it could be actually quite good for us there.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Imagine how outdated it'll look in a decade.
Exactly. We'll be
Yes, I
laughing
know.
at this ridiculous document in 10 years.
I guess that means Sam's the next chair or something.
Right, in 10 years, there'll be an AI button that you just push.
Well,
You need an
think
open space plan and it'll do it all.
Yeah, you just press the open space plan button.
Yeah.
I think that we had 28 public meetings related to this plan, including the public info sessions. So it was certainly a labor of love, and we tried to get as much input from as many people as possible along the way. And it's certainly, we have some ambitious stuff, and some of it is, again, something Rebecca and I could knock out in a week, and some of these goals are stuff that's going to take 25 years. So it's a wide range of stuff that we're really excited to get our fingers into.
Very cool.
Right.
So we need to vote on
Right.
issuing a letter of support from the commission.
I move we issue a letter of support.
I'm great. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Werner. All right. Priya,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes. Oh,
Pam,
yes.
Roberta,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Yeah. Exciting.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And so procedurally, we can work on, we'll work with the chair and vice chair and drafting that, and then that can be, I think sometimes it's just signed by the chair, or you can all sign it. I think that would also be appropriate if you'd all like to sign it.
And I think at least last time there was an opportunity when it goes before the select board, probably Roberta and I, or maybe the whole commission, could go and say a few words in front of the select board, asking for their or talking through it a little bit. I know you'll probably do that, Alex, in front of them as well.
No, I think it would be great to have a few folks from the.
When is it? When is
PD
the?
and
Do
commission.
you have a date yet, Alex?
No, we're figuring out some of that. We still have to do some stuff on our end that we haven't wrapped up, and we still have a few people to hear back from, but it's probably going to be late August, September, sometime before town meeting.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Great.
All right. One more obstacle.
I'm gonna see if I can do this in 5 minutes. I don't have any slides this evening. I just had a couple really quick updates I wanted to let you folks know about. I have them here. Sorry, forgive me. One of the biggest things is sort of it's a state level thing, and I'm not sure how familiar you all are with the Mass Ready Act. So the Mass Ready Act was submitted by the governor was filed a few weeks ago, and it has a lot of aspects to it. Rebecca and I are attending an information session on this later this week, and we can send a sort of a write-up on our findings. But the biggest thing here, and I'll avoid too many details because I have just read through it once and read some bullet points, but it does, if it passes, and they were out there, talking about it today, it has some implications for the Wetlands Protection Act. Notably, one of the big goals behind the Mass Ready Act is to streamline permitting. And so as it's written, it does speak specifically about things like a notice of intent can now just be emailed rather than require a physical element. The notification to the newspaper can just be a posting on the town website. these are just a couple little snippets from here. There are some things that would previously have qualified for a notice of intent that might not qualify for a notice of intent. It could be something that's approved at an agent or administrator level. There are potentially sort of universal permits that could be granted for waterway projects, specifically around culverts and things like that. There is, and also notably, climate resiliency would be added as an interest to the act, which is not in there now as one of the interests of the act. So some are big changes and some are sort of operational changes that, make sense given it's 2025. What Rebecca and I will do is some combination of us will write kind of a summary on some of the observations we have at this info session from MACC a little later this week, because I just think it'll be helpful for us to all have an idea of what this entails, because it is not just apply to us philosophically. I mean, there's lots of stuff in there about biodiversity goals and about general open space support and things like that, which is great. But literal nuts and bolts changes to the Wetlands Protection Act might be coming as part of this. And so I think that's just something we want to be aware of.
And this is a bill right now?
Yeah, so it was submitted, it was filed by the governor, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And so they were testifying today. The administration was testifying today. So it's moving forward. But I don't know how the story ends, but it's certainly on my radar now because it could mean some stuff for us.
Alex, so I'm like generally familiar with permitting reform, but what is Mass Ready?
So it's called the Mass Ready Act. Like I think that's just the name they chose for it.
Is it an acronym? REDI?
READY. I think it's just the word. I don't know if it's an acronym for something, but it's I don't think it means anything beyond being snappy.
Yeah, I think it creates that they have an environmental bond bill every 5 years. Last one was 2018. And so this is the most recent environmental bond bill. There's a lot of funding stuff, but then there was some outside sections of it that go to Wetlands Protection Act changes and some other changes. So that's, and I think it's just a snappier title.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I've been hearing about the environmental bond bill, but I hadn't heard it be called that before. So that's
but that's its formal name, is Massachusetts Ready Act.
Gotcha.
So I just have a last couple quick things. One is for the conservation restriction that was issued previously, we did receive the conditional document that we were waiting on for that. So Rebecca will reach out to you following this meeting to coordinate signatures for that conservation restriction. We're still at war with the Registry of Deeds over electronic signatures, so we're sticking with physical ones for the time being. And the only other thing that is, I'm thinking if there's anything else that's particularly time sensitive. For future Conservation Commission meetings, after this meeting, I'm going to cancel all of the ones that I sent out previously, just so if you see a mass cancellation, those meetings are still happening, but they'll just be coordinated through Rebecca. It just makes it easier for us on the admin and has us less of us dancing around between the two of our calendars. So I just don't want to be confusing. I wanted to say that in real life to all of you before you get lots of terrifying calendar invites for me canceling all of our meetings. They're still happening, but they'll just be coordinated through her.
And will we get a mass email, like new calendar invites from Rebecca?
Likely, yes. We'll make sure we'll confirm all those and make sure to send those out as new placeholders. That's all I got. Everything else.
There's one quick thing, which is you mentioned Palavin. It reminded me that she is likely joining the Brookline Land Land Trust.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, good. That's excellent.
Yeah, so I was able to reach out to her, and theoretically we're going to meet in person sometime in either August or early September. So
that's cool. Yeah. Cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that's it. That's probably enough. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move we adjourn.
Thanks.
I second.
Priya.
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Roberta.
Yes.
Porter.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. All right, I know we've had a couple of long meetings in a row here, so I
We
appreciate
started picking up
yeah.
speed at the end. We were doing okay.
I know. Thank you, Chair, for
Thank
getting
you.
us through these couple of meetings. They've been
Oh my
hairy. so-
gosh, I know, very.
I always say
gosh.
Brookline's like not as complicated as the suburbs, and sometimes it is. So
Well, it just shows that everyone's really passionate and wants to, share an opinion, and that's probably a good thing. So.
that's right. Well, thank you for all the time, everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
good night, everyone.
Good night.
Everyone.
Good night.
Bye.